Howdy folks, welcome to another beautiful day out here in Vancouver. A beautiful summer's day that was not that hot. It was a little bit cooler, really awesome weather. In any case, today I want to talk about the speed of the healthcare system in Canada from my own experience. Alright, so I've got some issues with hemorrhoids. I've always had, I've had for the last 10-15 years. You know, occasionally it flares up, and I guess it's a product of my exuberance when I was younger, you know, eating like lots of food and just eating and drinking and going mad. Although they say about 4 out of 10 people have that when they get older. But anyway, that's besides the point. So the beginning of this year, I start with a little bit of a flare up. I have a little bit of blood and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to need to have to get this looked after. So first I make an appointment at my doctor, and that was, I think, in March. So I go phone the doctor. How it works here, this is the process. So the first thing is I got to phone the doctor, because you can't just go and see the doctor. So I phone the doctor. I'm like, Doc, got some bleeding. I have had issues with hemorrhoids before. You know, I think we need to just let it check it out. I don't know what the problem is. You know, let's just make sure everything's fine. So we go, all right, come and see me next week. The next week I go into the doctor's office, and, you know, we go through that very awkward little thing where, you know, he like fondles around there and he's like, yeah, I think there's some hemorrhoids. I'm going to refer you to Dr. Lewis, who's going to take care of that. They're the specialists, they handle that. I'm like, okay, sweet, you know, let's do that. And then I wait. So eventually, after about a week, I get a phone call from this doctor's office. Now, this was March, the middle of March, that I phoned the doctor the first time. So now we are kind of in early April. Dr. Lewis's office phones me. They go, all right, we can make an appointment for you, a telephone appointment, consultation with the doctor for the 20th of May. That's the first available date. So I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I mean, it's not like, you know, I'm dying here or something. I'm just bleeding out of my ass. But anyway, so we like, okay, 20th of May works. That's okay. We make the telephone appointment. Eventually, the 20th of May comes around. Doctor phones me, asks me all the questions, like, what's wrong? Have you had it before? I'm like, yes. How much blood is there? Well, significant amount of blood occasionally, but, you know, it's just spurts. He says, yeah, that sounds, but we still do need to do a colonoscopy to just make sure that everything is all right, or to just see that see what's the next steps. My office will phone you and make an appointment for the colonoscopy. Now, this is the 20th of May. So it just goes silent then. I haven't heard a word from them forever, you know, just haven't. And to be quite honest, I didn't push it too much either, because I'm not like overly concerned, you know. Anyway, so today, which is the 2nd of August, I get a phone call. Oh, this is so-and-so from Dr. Lewis's office. I'm supposed to make an appointment for you to go and get a colonoscopy. I'm like, oh, wow, yes. What was it, May, June, July? Or, yeah, that's me. 2.5 months later. Good, let's do the appointment. So the lady on the other side, she says to me, all right, so when do you want this appointment? As soon as possible? Later this year, end of the year, next year, let me know. I'm like, well, I would assume we need to do it as soon as possible. I mean, kind of, you know, we need to make sure that everything's okay, and if it's not, so that we can take action or whatever needs to happen. I mean, I'm not the doctor, but, you know, so as soon as possible. She goes, oh, okay, cool. I've got a space for you next week. Can you get to Squamish? I'm like, yeah, I guess I can get to Squamish. She's like, all right, cool. So we have an opening at the Squamish Hospital next week, Wednesday at 2:30. So I'm booking you for that, and then you can go for your colonoscopy over there. And that's kind of the flow of, well, my experience with getting my hemorrhoids sorted out. That started with a phone call to the doctor in March and ended with a hopefully ends with a colonoscopy in the Squamish Hospital, which is a 40-minute drive away from here, and that is the only appointment available this month for a colonoscopy in BC. So, you know, this whole universal healthcare, public healthcare system, while it's great and I'm pretty sure they look after you really well, for all of these little outside cases, it's just not that smooth, you know, it's just not that perfect. But hey, so Belinda's going to take off work and drive me to Squamish next week, because obviously for the colonoscopy they put you out and you can't drive. They say it takes about 2.5 hours, so we'll see. I'll let you know if everything's okay. For the rest, what can I tell you about the healthcare system? Oh yeah, that same visit to the doctor that day, he was doing my blood pressure, and he's like, well, your blood pressure is a little high. And I'm like, well, my blood pressure's never been high. I'm super relaxed. I'm not a high blood pressure kind of guy. And he says, okay, well, I need to book you to wear a blood pressure cuff for the whole day, which I kind of promptly forgot about, so that's my fault. And last time I went back to the doctor to get some tablets anyway, and he's like, did you do the blood pressure thing yet? And I didn't. So eventually I was like, Belinda was shouting at me, and she's like, doctor says you got to do it, you got to do it. So I went down to the lab down here, and I got this blood pressure cuff that you got to wear for 24 hours. So they put it on you, and every 30 minutes it takes your blood pressure. And you got to pay for it. It costs $65 to rent this blood pressure cuff for the day. But anyway, so we got that. I wore it for the day, and this was already a week and a half, just over a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago, and we still haven't got any results or anything. Now, look, I don't know. It could be just because of the staffing issues, because there really are big staffing issues in the hospitals. I'm reading more and more about emergency units that's getting shut down or closed down because they don't have enough staff. I'm reading more and more about ambulances and 911 calls that takes a lot longer, because the ambulance and the emergency response personnel, number one, they're a little bit short-staffed, and number two, they have to now drive further to hospitals that's got open ER rooms, because the other ones are too full. They can't take any more patients because they just don't have the staff, which is, you know, concerning. Although I'm pretty sure Canada will sort it out pretty quickly. I think the health minister today said that they are going to start looking at getting nurses through, certified nurses that wants to immigrate through quicker, and pushing that to help bolster the hospital staff in Canada. But anyway, so, you know, not everything is always better, but for the rest, we still love it here. All right, guys, cheers.